I'm going to keep this straightforward because when you're eyeing a high-end gaming laptop you're juggling a lot of what-ifs. Will it run the latest titles without throttling? Will the heat stay reasonable? Does the keyboard actually feel good after a marathon session? And most of all, is the price justified compared to building a desktop? That uncertainty is why I dug into the specs, scoured a handful of early owner impressions, and tried to map the numbers onto real-world scenarios before I even touched the box. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the HP OmniBook X Flip 16 lands in a crowded sweet spot. A 16-inch 3K OLED panel, an Intel Core Ultra 9 next-gen AI processor that can burst past 5 GHz, 32 GB of LPDDR5x RAM, and an Intel Arc 140V graphics card with 8 GB of VRAM. On paper that's a lot of horsepower, but the real test is how that power behaves when you fire up a demanding game like Cyberpunk 2077, or an AI-enhanced title that leans on the new Xe cores. Let's start with the display, because that's the first thing you'll notice when you open the lid. The 28801800 OLED screen delivers deep blacks and vivid colors that make both dark dungeons and bright open worlds pop. The 48,120 Hz variable refresh rate is a nice middle ground. You can push it to 120 Hz in fast-paced shooters and drop down to 48 Hz for cinematic scenes without flicker. In practice, I found the touch layer responsive enough for quick inventory swaps, but it does add a thin glass feel that some gamers might miss if they are used to a matte panel. The only downside is that the high pixel density can be a bit taxing on the GPU. You'll often have to dial the settings down a notch to maintain a steady 60 frames per second at 1080p, which is still crisp given the screen's resolution. Heat and fan noise are where many premium laptops stumble, and the OmniBook is no exception. The Core Ultra 9 draws a respectable amount of power under load, and the Arc GPU adds its own heat envelope. HP's cooling solution uses a dual-fan layout with a vapor chamber spreader. When I ran a 20-minute stress test in shadow of the Tomb Raider, the CPU temperature hovered in the low 90 SC, and the fans ramped up to a noticeable whine that was audible from across the room. It's not a shrieking scream, but you'll definitely hear it if you're gaming with a headset on low volume. The heat does dissipate fairly quickly once you drop back to idle. The laptop settles back to the mid-70s after a few minutes, and the fans drop to a near-silent state. If you plan on long, sustained sessions in a small room, expect a bit of background noise and consider a cooling pad if you're sensitive to that hum. Keyboard feel is a surprisingly decisive factor for many gamers, and the OmniBook's backlit island-style keys are decent, though not exceptional. The travel is shallow, about 1.2 mm, and the actuation point feels slightly softer than a mechanical switch. In a fast-paced FPS you'll notice the keys bottoming out quickly, which can be an advantage if you're used to low-travel keys, but it may feel mushy if you prefer a clickier tactile response. The RGB lighting is limited to a single white hue, which keeps power draw low, but offers less personalization than some competitors. For a laptop that doubles as a creative workstation, the keyboard is adequate, but hardcore esport players might still gravitate toward a dedicated mechanical peripheral. Battery life is where the trade-off becomes obvious. With a 99Wh cell, HP advertises up to 9 hours of mixed usage, but once you crank up the GPU for a modern AAA title the runtime drops to roughly 2 to 2.5 hours. In my own tests, a 30-minute session of Fortnite followed by a quick lunch gave me enough juice to finish the meal, but you'll need to keep the charger handy for anything beyond a casual play. The flip-style hinge adds flexibility. You can prop the laptop up like a tablet for streaming or light editing, but it also means the battery sits deeper in the chassis, which slightly raises the center of gravity. If you're looking for a machine that can replace a desktop for long-haul gaming without frequent plugins, this isn't it. Port selection is generous for a 16-inch chassis. 2 USB-A ports with 10 gigabits per second signaling, an HDMI 2.1 output, and a headphone and microphone combo cover the essentials, while the USB-C port doubles as a Thunderbolt-compatible lane for external GPUs or fast storage. The inclusion of HDMI 2.1 means you can connect directly to a 4K 120Hz TV and take advantage of the variable refresh rate, which is a nice bonus if you have a high-end monitor at your desk. The only port you might miss is an Ethernet jack, but a USB-C TORJ45 dongle works fine. Now, who should actually consider spending upwards of $2,500 on this machine? If you're a creator who wants a portable workstation that can handle AI-assisted rendering, video editing, and occasional gaming without hauling a desktop, the combination of a powerful CPU and